All right, we're going to move on to something technically not horror, but a character in this is considered a horror icon. And I mean, his last film outing was kind of a terrible slasher movie. We're going to talk about the first of the Hannibal Lecter novels by Thomas Harris, Red Dragon. Now, Red Dragon is about a detective named Will Graham, FBI agent Will Graham, somewhat retired due to capturing Hannibal Lecter and kind of getting mangled in the process. He's brought out of retirement to hunt down the Tooth Fairy, a serial killer that is killing whole families. Removing their eyes, putting glass, like mirrors in their eyes, that sort of thing, just mutilating the bodies in weird ways. Now, Will Graham is interesting because he can get into the mindset of the killer. That's why he's really good at his job. The problem is it causes a lot of mental issues for him. In this, we also have Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter, also known as Hannibal the Cannibal, he was a doctor in psychiatry, and he would eat his victims. But we gotta talk about this book. This book's interesting. So this was Thomas Harris's second novel. His first being Black Sunday, which I do believe is a novel on terrorism, totally different than this. This is what I consider to be a perfect book. All the characters are written perfectly. There is not an ounce of fat on this book. Everything that's in this is here for a reason. And I can't say this about any of his other books that he's written. Not to say he's a bad author necessarily, although some of his stuff is infamously bad. But Thomas Harris has written 6 books in his entire life. He writes a book about once a decade at this point. Black Sunday came out in the 70s. This came out in 81. And the shortest distance between this and was Silence of the Lambs, the sequel, which was the late 80s. Hannibal was the late 90s. Hannibal Rising was the mid to late 2000s. And then Karimora came out in 2019, which might actually be a shitpost. You tell me. I have not read it, but I've heard that it's horrifically bad and possibly on purpose. But Red Dragon, the less I say about it, the better. It's perfect, though. I cannot stress that enough. This is a perfect novel. Anytime, every action sequence, police procedurals. I mean, this is a microcosm of what it was like to hunt down a serial killer in the early 80s before computers. As James A. Janisse said, and I'm going to paraphrase from his Manhunter review, because yes, this has been adapted 3 times for both film and television. He said it was a lot easier to be a serial killer back then. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating how the Tooth Fairy / the Red Dragon, as he likes to be called, picks his victims. And his whole backstory is fascinating. And I honestly can't call him an evil character. I'm bringing this up now because when we get to Hannibal, things are a little different in that. The Tooth Fairy suffers from a very difficult and tragic upbringing that's kind of molded him into the way he is. So there's like a sympathetic nature to him. And when you get to him, because it takes its time getting to his perspective on things, it's really fascinating and well written. I can't stress this enough. I have to rate this a 5 out of 5. This is a perfect novel. So anyway, have a nice day.